Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome, everyone. I hope you're well. I'm your host, Ben Lively, and you're listening to Shaken Awake, episode number 51. I just want to thank you for tuning in with us today, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing right this very moment. It means everything to me to share the messages that God's laid on my heart to share, and it'd be wrong of me not to officially welcome and thank you to those who joined us from Denmark last week. So I'm proud to have you on the show, and welcome, friends. And as always, I promise you another great show. But more than anything, my hope for you today and always is that you have an actual encounter with the Lord, not just another podcast episode. And just a quick ask, if you find value in these episodes, would you take 30 seconds after the show to just submit a quick review and maybe a star rating on your app that you listen to it? This is what other listeners look for when they decide whether to give a show a listen. So it's confirmation from good people like you that it can bring value to them. So would you do that for me if and only if you find value in these episodes? And I can't thank you enough to those that do. So without further delay, let's get ready to invite God in with us right here, right now, and allow him to speak directly to your heart and minds. But first, if you are a first-time listener and wondering how could I make a podcast sounding like one of Jim Henson's Muppets, or if you've been a long-time listener and believe this isn't me, it is. I've got some pretty bad COVID, and I sound and feel like the polar opposite of how I normally feel. So I even canceled the episode with our next guest, Korey, who I'm about to introduce, as I was feeling too ill to even stand up, even sit up at times. However, in my prayers to God, asking him to repair me, and just thinking about Korey and this show and what he has for you today, God said this to me. I felt him saying, "Don't let the devil and his virus be greater than your faith in me." And within that second, I'm back on with Korey saying, "Hey, we're doing this, brother. Satan isn't stopping this one from getting out." So without further ado, I am proud, I'm humbled, I'm honored, and just blessed to have with us today Korey Burris from Texas. Korey is not just a new brother in Christ to me. He is a walking, talking, ministering, beloved child of God that has such a profound story. I'll do very little talking this episode because he's the man that God would not allow to die. He's the man that God would not allow to die, and you're going to find out how. This is such a powerful testimony to the one that we serve, the Almighty God, and a witness to Korey's faithfulness in just taking what the enemy meant for evil and using with the helping hands of our Father to use it for good. So this episode is entitled Korey Burris, the man who God refused to let die. So allow me to introduce Korey to our show today. Korey, how are you today, brother?
I'm good. How you doing? Thanks for letting me come on here.
Oh, man, it's our pleasure. Trust me, man. I'm just gonna kind of put my mic on silent. I know that's a taboo statement for me to make, but I just love to allow the Holy Spirit to speak through you and into the hearts and minds of those who's listening today and those who will hear this eventually. And whenever you're ready, man, bless us, brother, because when I saw your post, guys, I know you can't see through a podcast, but first thing Korey posts in one of our Christian men's groups, Men Who Follow Christ, is big capital letters, trigger warning, with all these asterisks. So immediately that caught my attention. I want to see what he's talking about. And he puts a couple photos of himself. One is a real good-looking young teen, and then another one after obviously a traumatic event had happened, and his testimony. And I was already blown away at the photos, let alone reading his testimony. He's got something out of this world, something that only God could have ordained. And I don't want to waste another moment without hearing that and letting him share this with you, the power of God through a human being such as Korey. So, hey, Korey, just kind of share with our audience, what it was like growing up, and what life was like as a teen, and what kind of spurred this kind of direction in your life. Not where you're at now, but where you were before you were shaken up or shaken awake.
Well, my story's it starts out. Well, I can't just tell you the first of it because I didn't know this at first. But okay, so I was born wherever, I didn't. Everything was cool. I was growing up. I can remember 5, 6 years old. Everything was normal. It was, and I started playing soccer at age 5 years old, and oh wow! Just I just realized I played soccer. First time I played soccer was 40 years ago. I'm old, but anyway, my mom was the coach, and I had an older brother, so my dad coached his teams, and it just that's where it started. That's where I start remembering. But we played sports. I mean, just about everything. But anyway, um, the more I played, the more I started noticing, my dad wasn't always there, and he'd always be at my brother's stuff. But like when I didn't have practice or game, I was always at their stuff, So it's like, well, why isn't he always at mine? Kind of a little thing like that, which I didn't really pay much mind because, whenever he was busy, I just blew it off. So, I just things like that, little things like he wasn't around, and or on weekends. I remember on Sunday mornings, I was just like, I know he was gonna start griping about something, So I was just like, man, I hate Sundays, or he would every once in a blue moon he would make us go to church, and it's like, okay, we go to church, but he goes and smokes, 3 or 4 cigarettes during church. It's like, where's he going? Anyway, but he would always gripe at us, and it's like, we're getting in trouble all weekend, I didn't like the weekends, during the week he would go to work and he would be gone and this, that, and other, but, I can always remember the weekends and like, oh man, what's he going to gripe about? What we got to have to do? And anyway, so it just continued like that. And then I was 10 or 11 years old, probably. Anyway, we were all having a family thing at, I think it's Thanksgiving, or I can't remember. One of the family get-togethers, Anyway, me and my cousins were outside. Well, it was my brother and my 2 cousins, so it was 4 all together, it was 4. So anyway, I went in the house to grab something to drink, and they didn't hear me come in, all the adults. And my dad wasn't there, of course. Anyway, they were talking about me and my dad, so I stopped. I didn't go into the room. So I just sat there and listened for a second. And they were talking about how I was a mistake, in my dad's eyes. Okay, not my mom. But in my dad's eyes, I was a mistake. And, so I started thinking, maybe that could be a reason why he treats me the way he does, always griping at me and I can't do nothing right and calling me all these names and everything, and so I just went back outside. I never said anything to him. I never said anything to him to this day. But, I mean, because it doesn't matter anyway. But anyway, so I was like enlightened about it, I was able to put something together, Well, the older I got, he got worse and started punishing me in odd ways, like military style ways. 6 inches, doing 6 inches. I don't know if all y'all know what that means, but you lay down and you put your legs together and you put your feet up 6 inches in the air and you stay there. And it burns, So he would do a lot of stuff like that and make me sit on the wall, my back on the wall, like I'm sitting in a chair, but there's no chair there. You know what I mean? With the legs bent and everything, and kneel on uncooked rice, and he made me take a bath in a 55-gallon drum in the backyard. And we don't have a privacy fence. We got a chain link fence. You can see.
Oh man.
Anyway, but one of his favorite things to do was, if he wanted to know whatever information it was, if I was lying or whatever the case may be, he would put a mark about 4 inches above my nose with pencil on the wall. and he would make me put my nose on that mark. And he would sit behind me in the chair with a belt. And every time I would go below that mark, he'd hit me with the belt. And I got back up there. And I would stay there until I told him whatever it was, whatever the case may be at that point, you know. And that happened a lot, you know. And my mom, you know, they fought constantly about me all the time. It was every night thing. It was just relentless, you know. It was just, it was horrible. And but she worked a lot. She's an RN, and I mean, it was just terrible. It was a toxic situation. But things continued, you know, for years and years. And whenever I was 16 years old, I had just turned 16 in like September. And then, let's see, we went back to school after Christmas break. And, you know, I was a happy kid as far as if I went at home. I mean, I was happy here too. It just, I don't know, I just learned how to put it behind me, really. But went back to school after the Christmas break. And then we were going to have a big party. You know, this one guy at school always threw big parties. Anyway, he's like, I'm having a party this weekend, and everybody at the whole school was going to go. And, you know, it's just what we did. We partied on weekends around here. We live in the woods. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the day came. You know, it was Friday night. You know, I can still remember the day. Anyway, came home, and me and my two buddies, my best friends, was like, hey, yeah, let's go home. We'll take showers and meet back up at your house. We'll go to the party. Because it was like around the corner from one of my buddies' houses. And so, all right, we went home and I got a shower. I got ready to go to the party. And I got out of the shower. I live with my mom again, so I'm looking at the spot I was standing in when I got the phone call. Wow. But I was standing in my room. I had put my pants on and everything. I didn't have a shirt on or nothing. And my buddy called me and said, we're not going to the party. I'm like, why not? You know, it's Friday night. It's the party. I said, everybody's going to be there. Why ain't we going? And he's like, well, and my buddy's name is Cody. Okay, so he said, no. He said, we're not going. He said, Cody shot himself. And I'm like, what? I said, is he okay? Did he shoot himself in the foot? What's going on? Because we played with guns all the time. We went hunting, and, you know, it was a common thing.
Yeah.
Well, he said, no. He said, he's dead. He shot himself in the head. He blew his head off. And I was just like, what? I was devastated. I was just in shock. Like, there's no way. So I called another buddy of mine, and I said, come get me right now. And that's what happened. I said, we got to go to his house right now. So he hauled butt over here, because he lived like half a block away. Anyway, he brought me to his house. And it was just, man, it was crazy. There was just cops everywhere and ambulances. And my other buddy, Bill, that had called me and told me, his stepdad was an ambulance driver. Mm. And he was across the street at his dad's house from me. But his stepdad mom lived 4 houses down from Cody. So, and his dad was an ambulance driver that had to come get him.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it was just... Anyway, so when I got there, the ambulance was still there. They took him off. They drove off when I got there. But they had a cop blocking the door. And I said, I'm going in there. And he said, you're not going in the house. And I said, you need to step aside because I'm going in that house. And the cop, he took a step to the side. And wow. I can't believe he did it actually now, but he took a step aside and I went in the house and, man, I can still see it. Yeah. But, I mean, the aftermath was still there and just the family was there and just I mean, I can't describe it. It was like my heart was ripped out of my chest. Just, I'll never be able to unsee what I saw.
No.
And then I stayed there. For a while, a long while. You know, what was I supposed to do? You know, I mean, like, I didn't know what to do.
Sure.
You know, and he had a little brother, and he had a little nephew that was, you know, he was supposed to be watching. Nobody was home. He was babysitting the nephew. And the nephew was asleep on the couch when it happened. So he didn't see nothing, but they came home like right after. And, man, it was just a total shock. He had like the perfect life, you know. Mm-hmm. His dad was a pharmacist. They had good money. He had four-wheelers. He had an in-ground pool. He had a half pipe in his backyard. He had the cheerleader girlfriend. I mean, everything. I mean, who would not want to be like that? You know what I mean? In high school. So it was just like, it was a total shock. It was just, there was no rhyme or reason why.
Right.
And to this day, no reason why.
Sure.
You know.
When I hear that, I hear one family that's in disarray, right? Turmoil.
Yeah.
And one family, his, that seems to be the, whatever we call it these days, the perfect American family. Yeah. And you said that you were happy when you're not at home, you know. Sounds like he could have been happy all the time. So why?
He's been happy all the time. And it's like, you know, and it was horrific, man. Yep. But we went back to school. Well, there was a weekend, and like, I think the funeral was like on a Monday or something, that Monday. But it was, there was standing room only in the parking lot of the funeral home. It was wild, man. It was just, I've never seen nothing like this. And during the funeral procession, there was cars at the funeral, and the line was still coming out of the parking lot. And it was like 5 miles away. And it's like, wow. You know, it's just... This town had never seen anything like that. It devastated everybody. Mm-hmm. Well, after the funeral and all that, we went back to school, you know, like the next day, and man, I wasn't feeling it. You know, I didn't want to be there. And you know, everybody hangs around before the school starts, you know, talking and whatnot. And it was just silent, man. It was just an eerie silence. It was just heavy, you know. The whole school was heavy, and I left. I said, I can't be here. I got to go. And I walked off campus, and like 50 people just left. They just, I'm gone, I'm leaving. And nobody even got in trouble, you know. And actually walked across the street from the high school, and that's where my friend lived that shot himself. And because we went to my other buddy's house that lived 4 houses down. We all went to his house. And it was just, the principal even called us, you know, and said, he wasn't griping. He didn't say come back to school. He says, I'm just going to see if y'all are okay. I'm checking on y'all. Just, you know, it was like a whole mutual thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, which is a good thing. I'm glad they didn't come try and get us and everything else, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how did that transition to what happened next with you in particular? Because I know in today's society, they have, you know, typically counselors on board. They have social care. They've got all...
They had them back then, too.
Okay.
Nobody used them. I mean, they did after the fact.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, they had counselors trying to get me out of class.
Oh, okay, good.
And trying to talk to me, but I wouldn't talk to them. You know, it's like, I don't even know what to tell you. You know, I don't. Yeah. What am I? You know.
Yeah.
What do I tell you?
So how did that end up impacting your individual life, other than obviously the initial shock and just the uneasiness of it all? How did that filter
well,
back?
After all that, I mean, I did the best I could, and I mean, a lot of us started going back to church, and just, you know, we didn't know what to do, so I just, you know, tried to put it behind me the best I could, you know, and just continue on. And like I said, that was in January. So everybody just tried to do the best they could. Me too, and just try to get back to normal and for the most part it did, but things at home were the same and getting worse. And, on the weekends, I would drink here and there, whatever, with some friends but anyway, it was always in the back of my mind. But I told everybody I wasn't going to do that, because they were worried about me. And I said, no, there's no way I would ever do anything like that. I said, I see the pain it caused. I feel the pain that it caused, and it didn't, his pain went to so many hundreds of people. And it's just, wow, and so that was my mind frame. I wasn't ever going to do that, and I kept getting in trouble at home and getting grounded. I was always getting grounded. And so my life really hadn't changed much after that until, I don't know, I was in trouble. And I remember it was around November or so, I'd gotten out of trouble and hanging out with some buddies. And we went, and just as a gag, we went and stole a bunch of reindeer and, Christmas decorations and, lights. And we had a whole herd of reindeer at the store parking lot. It was a joke,
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know, but while we were taking all the lights and stuff, some guy we took his lights. Well, he started chasing me on foot, behind my truck. And apparently he had grabbed on my tailgate, and I didn't know. But when I hollered button and turned the corner, I slung him off my truck. I had no clue. I didn't know he was back there. Anyway, so the cops were looking for us, and they found us because I wasn't hiding. Anyway, they said, y'all been stealing Christmas lights and this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, it wasn't us. We weren't doing nothing. Anyway, they checked my registration and opened the glove box. Christmas lights come poured out of there.
Oh,
So busted.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the cop laughed. He laughed it off. He said, man, y'all go home. And we didn't get in trouble. We just, we went home. And while I was in trouble at home, man, I got grounded. And, man, I had to go. I don't know. I had to go apologize to the guy and talk to him with my dad. And just a whole bunch of stuff, And so I was grounded again. And Christmas came, and I was still grounded. Well, New Year's came around, and me and my buddy, I was trying to get out of getting grounded. So I was, begging and begging. Finally, they said, you can go out tonight, but you better not do anything stupid. And, I'd already planned on doing something stupid. I'd done planned this big old lie, how I gave him my buddy's phone number, told him I was going to be at another buddy's house, blah, 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 because his mom said we could drink. And, well, that was a lie. We'd show up with beer. She kicked us all out. So, well, anyway. So, we go to the town's about 10 miles away, Mauriceville. Anyway, it's a hick town. So we go there and we party and end up getting too drunk. And, well, I stayed there anyway, but it rained that night and I had my truck parked. Well, I thought it was all right, but anyway, I came back and it's like in a mud hole. I'm like, oh man. So anyway, and it's the next day. I'm hungover bad. Took a bunch of us to get my truck out of there, and it looked like I went mudding all night. Anyway, so when I get home, it's cold. It's January 1st. Part of my punishment was I had to wash the truck and had to wash the underneath of the truck, everything. And I quote, he said, I want you to be able to eat off the bottom of that truck. I want it so clean. Anyway, so when I was laying under there, freezing cold, water hit me, I made a decision, man. I said, look, I'm done with it. I kept thinking about my buddy. I'm like, man, all his problems are gone. They're over with. It's just, he ain't got nothing to worry about. So I made a decision while I was under the truck. I said, I'm just going to shoot myself and be done with it. I'm going to check out. I'm tired of it. I can't take it anymore. And it just, I'm 17 years old at this time, and So when I got through washing the truck, I came in, took a shower, whatever. Anyway, and I was grounded for however months or whatever. So I'm sitting in my room, and after I take a shower, my brother wasn't home, and my brother had the shotgun. So I went in his room and I grabbed the shotgun shell and I put it next to my TV. And for a whole week, sat there and stared at the shell, and watching TV, and man, it just kept being a better and better idea. As crazy as that sounds, I was being lied to, in my own voice in my head by Satan, but I believed it because it was my own voice. It's like, well, yeah, it's me. Anyway,
so as the days were going on, the thoughts inside and the thought of ending it all became more and more and more appealing as the days went on, right?
I couldn't wait. I was waiting till the day my buddy killed himself. I was going to do it on the same day.
Oh, wow.
And which was January the 8th. So that's why I waited a week. So anyway, the thoughts were just, man, I couldn't even have a clear thought. But at the time, I thought they were clear as day,
Mm-hmm.
And it was just telling me how I'm just worthless, I'm nothing, I'm a burden, I'm trouble to everybody, doing everybody a favor by doing this, this, that, and the other. Obviously, I was being lied to, but
yeah.
So the day of January the 8th came, and I wasn't in any hurry to do it, I'm just sitting around the house. My dad was gone, my brother was gone. It was just me and my mom here. And I was in there watching TV. I was watching a movie. I was actually watching the movie Aspen Extreme. But I was sitting on the couch watching TV. And my mom came in the room. I was like, I got to get rid of her somehow. So I told her, I said, the dog needs to go outside. Why don't you take her outside? So she was like, okay. So she took the dog outside. And when she did, I ran back in the back and grabbed the gun and the shell. And I went into the bathroom, and we had two doors that were locked. The first door I locked it where the sink sat. I went in there where the tub and stuff was, and I locked that door. I sat down on the toilet, and I put the butt of the gun on the ground and put it under my chin. And I was like, all right, man, on the count of three, I'm out of here. And man, I didn't even hesitate. I said 1, 2, and then I pulled the trigger. And I don't remember anything for 2 weeks, but I never passed out. I never died. I was coherent for the most part. I walked back in the living room, unlocked both doors, and sat back on the couch where I was, and I was watching TV. And my mom came back in the house, and she told me later that she was outside for 6 minutes. And she said she won't talk to me about it. It's still, she won't talk to me about it.
Sure.
But in which I don't try to pressure her into it. But she said that she was outside for 6 minutes and came back in, and half my face was gone, and there was just blood everywhere.
Oh man.
And she had no clue what happened. She didn't know. Anyway, she was an RN by trade, so her training kicked in, I guess, and she was able to keep her composure long enough to try to get help here.
Wow.
And she called 911. She said she had to call them like 5 or 6 times because it was busy.
Oh.
Yeah, imagine that.
Wrong time for it to be busy.
Right. How can it be busy?
Mm-hmm.
But, so the cops, I'm sure the cops were here, ambulances, and, I'm sure this scene here was just like what I saw at my buddy's house. And the only difference, I had a helicopter right down the road to church waiting on me.
Wow.
And they put me in the ambulance and brought me to the helicopter where they flew me to Beaumont, Texas, which is like 30 miles away from here. Well, when I got there, they brought me in, and I've actually talked to nurses and the pilots of the helicopter and stuff, and they said I was unrecognizable as a person. That my head was the size of a basketball, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't have the know-how or the ability to be able to fix me. So they put me back in the helicopter, and they flew me to Galveston, Texas, and that's where I stayed for months. And they put me back together. I don't, like I said, I don't remember anything for 2 weeks, but I was trying to communicate the whole time. They had paper and I had a pen, and I mean, even in the helicopter, I was writing notes, trying to talk and trying to, and just trying to communicate.
Do you remember what you were trying to say? Did you realize what had happened, or were you just totally oblivious to where you were at and why you were there?
Oh, I'm sure I knew what happened, but I don't remember, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I just, my mom had saved most of the notes, and I read them. She didn't have the ones from the very first. They probably covered blood and everything. I don't know, but I have a bunch of them from when I was in the hospital before I could remember, and it was just like, it wasn't like mapped out like a piece of paper with stuff writing on it. It was just like somebody took a sheet of paper and brainstormed on it. You know what I mean? It was just, they were watching me. It was like, I'd write something and I guess they'd answer me or whatever. It was all over the place. But anyway, the first thing I remember is, I always say I woke up, but I never was out. So, but, the first thing I remember was just, wow, you're a failure. How can you take a 12 gauge and not kill yourself? Wow. I mean, just utter disappointment. I'm still here. And it's like, man, just all the everything was just, it was still there, but so much more.
Yeah.
And so I looked in the bathroom, and I'm strapped down. I mean, I'm strapped down everywhere, legs, arms, chest, and I'm on suicide watch. I got a huge window in my room. Everybody can come by and look at me. I mean, anybody. So I looked in the bathroom, and my parents had taped those paper towels all over the mirror, so I couldn't see what I did. So I write notes, why are those on there? But we don't want you to see what you did. Well, obviously, now I got to make my way in there and see what I did. So I got him to unstrap me, and I made my way in there with my IV pole and all that. And I ripped the papers off the mirror, and I was just, wow. I was just in shock. And I wish I had a bunch of packing in my face, and I pulled it all out. And, man, it was just, half my face was gone. It was just a hole. It was chaotic. And, it was crazy because I had my mouth closed, the rest of my mouth, not half mouth, whatever. And I was looking through the hole in my face, and I could see the molars on the other side of my face.
Oh, man.
And it was like, wow. And it was just like, man, all the problems that you thought you had aren't even problems anymore.
Yep.
All the problems that you shot yourself over ain't even problems anymore. And it's like, you just created, like, a multitude of problems. And here we go. It's like, what are you going to do? What can you do? So I was sitting in the hospital bed months talking to God, and just, because I believed in God. I was saved. I thought I was going to heaven, And it was like, I didn't know a whole lot about him, but, there was a few things I held on to my whole life, that he always loved us no matter what. He would always forgive you, and he's always there. And that's the things I held on to,
Yep.
It wasn't much, but it was enough.
Yep.
At that point. And, man, I knew he saved me, and I started asking why, which I didn't get an answer in. But I said, I know you saved me for a reason, and I'm going to keep asking you every day until I get an answer. Mm. So I did that. You know, it was an everyday thing, you know, and it became just like a habit, you know, just a routine.
Yep.
Of asking. So anyway, I got out of the hospital, and I did a little homebound school for the rest of the year because it was almost over. And continuing to have surgeries, and I was having a lot of surgeries. Anyway, September came around. I went back to school. My parents were like, I don't know if you don't know if you go back to school yet. You know, you can still do the homebound. I'm like, I'm going back to school. I need to get right. I need to get back to normal. I need to get my life back.
Yeah.
So, you know, because I made a choice in the hospital. I said, man, I got two options here. You know, I can either stay in the house the rest of my life and be a recluse, or I can rue the day. I can walk with my chest out, my head up like nothing ever happened. Mm-hmm. So I chose that. And because I knew God was going to be there and help me through things, but I didn't know how or why. But I just kept going. And I went back to school, man, and I was a mess. I didn't look right at all. I mean, I had hardware everywhere. I had a bar from one ear to the other across my chin. You know, I was a mess.
And this is I just thought of it. This is on the heels of your best friend, a popular kid in school, which everyone was still obviously not over yet, I'm sure. And then you, right? Mm-hmm. So they're in double shock now on top of it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Wow.
And there was rumors going around that my other buddy was going to do it the next year. Like that there was a suicide pact. I'm like, no, there's no pact. Yeah. But anyway, I had a stomach tube still hanging out my stomach. I mean, I was eating through there, you know, and I still couldn't eat. People would make fun of me, you know, and snicker and point, and you know, it was. Which I was a popular guy at school, you know, so it wasn't like, and a lot of it wasn't making fun, you know, a lot of it was, they were just as shocked, they didn't know, and they didn't, you know, they had never been around that, they'd never seen somebody that looked like that, and I understood that, but I didn't let it bother me, you know, I just kept going, kept pushing.
Good for you.
You know, thank you, but, I never thought I'd have a girlfriend again. I thought all that was gone. You know, and that's detrimental, you know, to somebody in high school.
Sure.
You know, and lo and behold, like, it wasn't too much longer. I got a girlfriend. Looking a mess. And it's like, how in the world? So, but it really taught me a lot of things, you know, that I thought everybody was superficial and just looked at the outside, you know.
Yeah.
But no, there's actually some true people out there that actually look at your heart, you know. And we stayed together, you know, off and on for like 10 years. And we were engaged and everything. And I guess I got cold feet and I didn't go through with it. I took off. I took off. Which a lot of bad things had happened, and we had got back together. It was like I really didn't want to be back together, but I did. So when we got talking about getting married, I'm like, oh man, I got to go. I can't do it. So, which we're still friends now. It's crazy, but anyway, we didn't get married, so I took off, and I was going to college. And I met this girl a few months later or whatever. And she wasn't going to college. She just drove by. And I had met her at a party. And I didn't even remember. But I was standing outside college, and she drove by, and she stopped. She's like, "You remember me from the party?" I don't, but I do. I said I did. Anyway, so we started talking and dating, and we ended up getting married. And which I was on drugs, and even in college, and she was doing drugs too. But we started doing them together, and like we were doing coke and drinking and smoking weed, and just whatever. And so we were together, living together, and we already planned on getting married. And she was like, "Well, let's have a kid." I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Okay." Neither one of us knew anything about anything. So we quit doing the drugs. We had a kid, and it was hard to find a job because of discrimination and this, that, and the other. And if I found one, it wasn't paying nothing. And anyway, so I started smoking pot again. I was working. I was smoking pot again. And just things started going downhill. Just not because of pot, but just because of life, and started doing more drugs and more drugs. And this is around 2005. So, I mean, we're back on the hard stuff, doing meth, and man, it was just chaos. We couldn't get along, always fighting and arguing. It was just toxic. Started getting a little abusive on her part. And, it's just, man, my life was chaos again. It was just, and but I was used to the chaos, from growing up, and so it's pretty normal. But hurricane came through here in 2005, Hurricane Rita, and man, it tore it. It's like a bomb. It was like a bomb went off, and it was right after Katrina, like a month later.
Horrible.
And we had all the Katrina people here, and it was just, it was horrible, man.
Yep.
Came back the next day, but where I evacuated to was the most wrong place to go because it went right where I went. It was supposed to turn, but it came right where we were. So anyway, getting home was a wreck. I mean, good Lord. I mean, just going around trees, it was bad. Anyway, my job found out I was back. And they're like, "Well, you want to come to work?" I'm like, "Man, I can't just come to work. I got, there's no power. I got my family." And I said, they're like, "We'll give you like a $4 raise." I'm like, "I'll be there tomorrow." So I went back to work, and man, the money was it was good money, but it was just burning a hole in my pocket. Man, so I bought a bunch of drugs and just, anyway, I was working nights, so I was doing dope at night at work with my crew. I mean, it was horrible. Anyway, I was working. I went to work one night, and I wasn't doing any drugs. But I didn't do anything the whole night. And on the way home from work, there was construction zone on the interstate, and I had a little truck, so I had a little Ford Ranger. So I'm like, I'm passing this 18-wheeler, but I'm gonna go fast, so I'll get past him real quick. So I was going like 80 miles an hour, and I was passing him real quick. Well, he clipped the back of my truck. He barely came over, and because there was no shoulder, it was just concrete barrier in the lanes, so it was just real skinny.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when he tapped my truck, he didn't hit it hard, but when he tapped it, there was no room, so the force threw my truck into the little sidewall. And the airbag knocked me out at 80 miles an hour. If the airbag hadn't knocked me out, I could have just bounced around a little bit, and I could have slowed down and stopped, no problem. When I got knocked out, somehow my truck took a violent turn right in front of the 18-wheelers, and like I T-boned that wall with the front of my truck at 80 miles an hour. Boom, and it started flipping. My truck started flipping, and it caught on fire. Luckily, the 18-wheeler had a flatbed, and he didn't have a load on it, or he would have plowed right through me.
Yeah.
And but he was able to swerve quick enough and actually go around me. So I would have been dead right there.
Sure.
So I crawled out of the truck, and there's no traffic. Everybody stopped anyway. So I'm picking up my chains and crowbars and, everything I had in the truck. So the cops were like, "Hey, man, come here, you come here." I'm like, "Dude, hold on. I'm picking up my stuff,
I'm surprised you're still coherent.
Yeah, right. Well, they're starting to get mad. I'm like, "Dude, I had chains around my neck and everything, I'm like, they're like, "Come here." Anyway, I go over there and they're like, "Man, you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm good, dude." And I had a busted nose from the airbag and like, "You need to go to the hospital." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to the hospital." And they're like, "Why not?" I said, "I'm fine." And they're like, "No, you're not." My wife gets up there and my mother-in-law, and they're telling me I'm slurring and everything else. I'm like, "No, I'm good. I just got hit in the head, Anyway, but I didn't want to go to the hospital because previously I had gotten 2 DWIs, and that was before I met my wife. Actually, yeah, that was right before I met my wife. I got the second one like after a week of knowing her. Yeah. Anyway, so I wasn't going to go to the hospital because the first thing they're going to do is drug test me. And even though I'm not on drugs, they're in my system. So I'm not going to get out of that.
Yeah.
So there's no way I'm going to the hospital. So I go home and I go to work the next day. I go back to work. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I got to work." They're like, "You need to go home. You need to go take a few days off." And, anyway, so I go home and like the next day, man, my stomach just started hurt, just like cramping bad. Couldn't figure out what it was. Went to the hospital. Well, we don't know. It was just something. There was no nothing. Anyway, so I'm like, well, I can't go to work like this. I couldn't talk to somebody for 5 minutes without being out of breath. It's like something's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, about a week later, I'm sitting at the house, sitting on the bed, and my wife's sitting next to me, and I get out the bed. I don't even know what I'm going to do. But she said that it's like I saw a ghost or something. She said I got up off the bed, and I looked at the corner of the room, like the top corner of the room. And she said I followed all the way around the room, every corner, just looking like I was watching a ghost. And she said whenever I was facing her, she said that I tensed up so much. I didn't have a shirt or any muscle in my upper body. And I broke both my shoulders. I tensed up so bad, and I fell in the bed and started having a seizure.
Oh, man.
And she said it was like a violent seizure. Anyway, apparently I'd been out for a minute or whatever, because she had enough time to call somebody next door to come run over here and help her, whatever.
Yeah.
So when I woke up, this dude, my sister-in-law's boyfriend, had tattoos all over his face and everything, like biker dude, was running down my sidewalk with me in his arms. And I'm like, "What's going on?" I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
All I knew was my shoulders were burning, just like on fire. And so they brought me to the hospital and all that, whatever. So anyway, after all that, it was like, man, what's going on, dude? And it's like, I was mad. I was frustrated. I wasn't mad at God. I was frustrated with God. And it was like, because, man, it's just, my job was gone. My truck was gone. My shoulders were broke. I can't even try to work. I have a family with a 5-year-old kid and a wife and bills and, and what am I going to do? I mean, even if I wanted to do something, I had the opportunity to do something, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so this is like 12 years after I shot myself, and I'm still asking God every day, why you saved me? But it's just repetition, But
yeah.
On this day, I was pretty frustrated. So I told him a few choice words, and God, why the blank did you save me? What the blank, why am I here? And it's like, I wasn't expecting an answer, but I got one. And it was like, And it wasn't in my head either. It wasn't like a still small voice in your head.
Audible.
It was audible. I remember sitting on my couch and it's just like, he wasn't yelling, but it was, I don't know how to describe it, like
Stern?
A big voice. It was stern, but it was great authority. And I get my hair standing up on my arms right now.
Yeah, me too.
But he said, I want you to help people with suicides and talk to people and help people with suicidal problems. And I said, I laughed at him. I said, no. I said, no. I said, I'm not doing that. That's like one of my worst fears, getting in front of people and talking. I'm not. I said, no, you got the wrong one. I said, that's not me. And he kept saying, yeah, you're going to help people. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that.
Wow.
I said, you have to come up with something else. Like trying to negotiate with him, you know. And I was just like, no, I was dead serious. I'm not doing it. And then I was sitting there thinking, you know, and pondering on it. And like, man, I don't want to do that. Anyway, and because right after the wreck, I started going back to church. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't know what else to do. Anyway, I was the only one. My wife wasn't. She was on drugs, you know, eating pills. And I wasn't eating pills at the time. But anyway, so I told him, I said, look, if this is what you really want me to do, give me some confirmation. Mm-hmm. And that was the wrong thing to say. It was just like, it wasn't just confirmation. He's like, all right, broke a record. Wow. So that's all I could hear in my head was just help people. And it was just constant, and they didn't stop. Oh, wow. And it was like, oh man. I was like, fine, okay, I'll do it. Just stop. And
so he almost put you through what I call in the military. It's called psyops or psychological.
Yeah, like some waterboarding.
Yeah, but in your head, and that's what he did.
Yeah. Oh well, when he wants something, he gets it.
Wow.
But whenever I told him I would do it, when I said okay, it was like everything in my past made sense. It was like a light went off. It was like. Even down to my mom's conception, because my mom was on birth control when she got pregnant with me. And that's one of the reasons that my dad had a lot of resentment for me all the years, because he only wanted one son. And I wasn't mistaken in his eyes. So all the things I went through and all the punishments and all the struggle and mental anguish and physicality and everything, it was for a reason. It was so I can, you know, and it's not just from him, it's all the things that I've gone through in my life, through the abuse and through the toxic relationships, through, the drugs, the fighting, the running around, the cheating, stealing, lying, everything that goes with it was all for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
I can look back at my life and all the chaos and think it was just chaos. There was no rhyme or reason. But at that point, everything was just like a perfectly formed puzzle, you know.
So he revealed all that to you, every dot.
In a split second, and it was like, wow. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to process it, I guess, or deal with it. Just like, wow.
Yep.
And it was like, I don't know, it was mind-boggling, you know. And
how old were you about this time?
Oh, man, I was, I don't know, 2005, so I was 29.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So you're almost 30 years old, and now all of a sudden, in a matter of seconds, you've been told by God.
The last 30 years, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Like, what an awakening, huh?
Yeah, aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started helping people. I was like, well, how do I help people? How do I, because there wasn't Facebook. I don't know if it was back then. I didn't have it if there was.
Yeah.
Maybe MySpace. I didn't have none of that stuff. I had a flip phone.
Yep, me too.
So I started which I always, in my life, I always helped anybody with anything, anytime it came around without asking questions and without, I don't want payment. Anytime my buddies' trucks were broke, they bring them to me, just, whatever. So, I've always been the helper. I just didn't know how to apply it or gear it to what I needed to gear it to. You know what I mean? I can look back at my life and see that. So it's like God's been training me my whole life for this. It's wild. But anyway, so I went to Beaumont to the Rape and Crisis Suicide Center and the hotline people. So I went down there and said, hey, I want to volunteer. Give me what you got. So they put me through training, and I had to go through CPS training. They had to teach me a whole book of stuff. It was just like crazy stuff. Anyway, I started taking calls, and they're like, we can patch them through your phone so you don't have to come up here. I'm like, oh, great. So I can sit in my bedroom and do this. Anyway, so they're like, well, we like for people to start out slow. Whatever. I'm like, no, I'm jumping in it. And so I took the shift nobody wanted. I took from midnight to 6 a.m. And like 4 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week. And they're like, everybody has to do them one, and like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I want it. And so I was in it, dude. I was doing it, and God was all over it, and God was doing it, but I was just, I was putting myself out there, I was stepping out there and allowing Him to work through me, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, I didn't know anything.
Yeah, that's a step of faith.
Yeah, and it was crazy because the way they wanted me to do it was stay on the phone no longer than 3 minutes, give them some information, and get off the phone. I'm like, no. You can't help somebody in 3 minutes. So anyway, I said, I'm not going by y'all's protocol. And at first they kind of gave me a little, well, hey, you can't do this. I'm like, well, hey, yeah, I am. These are people, these aren't numbers.
Yeah.
Good
for you.
And I was supposed to write down all this stuff about them, their name. I wouldn't do any of that. I wouldn't turn in my paper on how many calls. And because they knew when I had a call, they had a hotline, and they knew. So y'all can get y'all's numbers from whatever. So anyway, I just did my own thing. I would stay on the phone with some people 2-3 hours. No 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And if somebody would call, I would let it go through if I was on the phone, because there was backup operators. So if I'm on a call, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So they just let me run with it. They just let me go. Hey, do what you're gonna do. And that was only a God thing, because they got protocols, and I mean,
yeah, you can't. That's what I was about to say. That was all God right there. They do not mess around with the rules and regulations when it comes to that. So, good for you for sticking by what God had made the pathway for.
Well, it's the only way I knew. I can't help you in 3 minutes. I can't do it. There's no. I mean, you can't. And some of the things I heard, oh my God, I'd be sweating, just trying to help these people, and oh man, and it was just horrible, and I started getting burned out on it. I did it for like 2-3 years, but I was going to church like 6 days a week, so I wasn't being emptied. I was still getting filled up, and but it was starting to get to me, and I was doing too much. So I backed off. I quit doing that, and I was getting better. I wasn't. I felt myself going downhill with it. Because my life hadn't changed. I changed. I was the only thing that changed in my life. My marriage was still toxic. It was still chaos. I was still having to, which we quit doing the hard stuff. I was still smoking weed, but she was eating pain pills, and like 40 of them a day. And I was still having to get them every day and deal with her not having them. And it was chaotic. And like she would tell me, "Don't come back if you don't find anything, because you'll have hell to pay." And it's just like it was just toxic. It's the best way I could. Yeah, just constant chaos. So I was doing the best I could, but God was taking care of me, and I would get one shoulder fixed during all this time, and the other one would break, and I'd get it fixed, and the other one would break, and it was a vicious cycle, and like right now, my right shoulder's been operated on twice. It's good, but my left one's broke again right now, and it's been broke for the last 2-3 years. They won't even. I can't find somebody to fix it. It's so mangled. And it's been operated on 4 times. And the last surgery, I had to beg them to fix it. I mean, really beg them. And anyway, so we're going through the dry spell and not working, can't work, and I'm just praying, and I don't ask anybody for anything because I'm not that guy. I'm not looking for a handout, I just want to get by. So, but God's taking care of everything, bills, everything, every month they're paid, and this goes on for, 6 years.
Wow.
And I look back and those 6 years, he's growing my faith. He's trust me, and I am. I have nothing else. That's the only thing I have is trust.
Yeah.
I have to, and anyway, let me back up a little bit. In 2006, when all this stuff's going on, my wife's on the painkillers. She cheated on me for the first time, and it ripped my heart out, dude. So even though I was going to church, I was a new Christian. She burned off that day, and like that night, I didn't know where she was. Anyway, and I knew the guy. He lived across the street from my father-in-law. We met. Okay, trust me. So anyway, I start drinking, and said, I'm gonna go shoot this guy. So I grabbed my gun, because I got guns. I'm not scared of guns. I shot myself. I knew what I was doing. Yeah, it's not the gun's fault. All right, so I grabbed my gun, and I had it point. I was about at his stomach, and I kept raising it, and I got to around his chest, and I heard a voice tell me to drop the gun. So I dropped the gun, and he took off running, and I jumped back in my truck and left, and I was just praying and praying. I didn't know what to do. So the next day, I called my preacher. Well, no, I called my preacher. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what to tell me. He hadn't been preaching long, so he was no help. Anyway, so I was praying, and it was that night, and God told me, he said, take him fishing. I'm like, what? He said, take him fishing. And I'm like, and I was trying to do right. I was trying to be faithful, so I'm like, okay, whatever. I can't promise you he's going to make it back with me, but I'll take him fishing. So the next day I hitched up my boat and everything and went to his house and knocked on the door, and he opened it with the chain, like, what do you want, Korey? Get out of here. I'm like, man, come on, I'm sorry. I want to take you fishing.
Wow.
He's like, I'm not going anywhere with you, especially in a boat.
Stupid. Right.
Yeah. I was like, man, I'm for real, just come fishing with me. He's like, I ain't going nowhere. And he slammed the door. I'm like, well, God, look, he didn't want to, but he said, but you were faithful. You did what I asked you to do.
Amen.
So I left with my boat and everything. I left. Well, here's the funny thing. And it says God takes care of your enemies. Mm-hmm. The next day, and this ain't a joke either. The next day, there was an abandoned house next to his house. Nothing in it. Well, it was a rent house nobody was in. I guess he broke in it. But anyway, his wallet was found on the floor in there. And he is gone. Hadn't heard a word from him since that day.
Wow.
I don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's at. I can't tell you.
Wow.
And nobody on that road ever saw him again. Nobody. He lived there.
That's amazing.
He lived there with his uncle. His uncle's like, I see his uncle today. Every time I pay my insurance, his uncle's coming in there paying his insurance. Not a word about it. Now, I don't want to ask him,
right.
But, you know, and God will show me if I'm faithful and focus on him, that he will take care of me.
That is amazing. Yeah, God
and
took him somewhere.
It's like, you know, and it's like, what? It's crazy. I mean, it's just, that's all I can say is it's crazy. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes there's no words for it.
So God's working on me this whole time, showing me and doing and showing. And I mean, down to cigarettes. I mean, and I know a lot of people are like, God ain't gonna buy you cigarettes. Yeah, he did, or he made a way. You know, several times. Because like one day, I passed by my house. I was going to the store before I got home or something. So I passed my house. There's a Walmart bag hanging on my door. I'm what? So I pulled in here. There's a carton of cigarettes my kind. And I smoked like mediums at that time. Nobody smoked those. And like, what? So, I mean, that's just crazy. And then like a few, like, I don't know, it's been months later, I go to do some laundry because my wife usually didn't do much. And I open the washer door and there's a carton of cigarettes in my washer. My wife doesn't work. She don't go to the store. She don't even have a license. She can't go buy cigarettes. I'm the one who would buy things. How'd they get in there? Yeah. I know they weren't in there because I washed clothes a few days ago. It's like, what? I don't know. It's
a little creepy.
Yeah. I mean, like, whatever. I mean, I smoke them. But anyway, so, you know, there's a 6-year span, you know, and all this is going on. She keeps cheating, and it got to where it's like, whatever, you know, whatever. It was at the point I didn't care anymore, you know, and it's like, oh, it was toxic and just, it was bad. We were talking about getting divorced and just, I was at wit's end with it, really. So, but I was still going to church all the time, 6 days a week, you know, and she wouldn't go. And so my father-in-law, he said, my stepfather-in-law, I had two of them, my mother-in-law remarried. But he had decent money. He worked for the power company. Anyway, he said, man, you need to go back to work. I'm like, yeah. And my shoulder was still broke, but I could do most things below my chest. Anything on the ground or down low, I could do. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I'm going to start a bounce house company. He said, they're balloons. How hard could it be? Oh, that was the hardest, heaviest job I've ever had.
I bet.
And I was a welder. So anyway, so I'm like, yeah. So he buys 10 of them off the dump. Just, here we go. And one of the ones he bought was the biggest one in Southeast Texas, and it weighed 880 pounds when it was dry.
Wow.
With a broke shoulder. And when it was wet, it could be up to 1,800 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm 5'2", 120 pounds. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So instead of, I thought it was a blessing, but it was a curse. It pulled me out of church. Instead of going to church 6 days a week, I'm working 7 days a week. And it's just me and another guy that's 16 years old, and he weighs about 130. You know, he's not much bigger. But me and him, man, we did it. We pushed through. We're the top company in the whole Golden Triangle around here. Oh, we actually knocked the top company out of business.
No way.
we were delivering across the street from the top company, 30 miles away.
That's great.
Delivering it down there. So, but it got bad, you know. I got back on the drugs because I wasn't going to church and I was working so much. And it was just, man, I got way out there on the meth, and ended up selling the company because he got divorced and he lost it in the divorce. So anyways, so for 3 years I'm swinging a 16-pound sledgehammer and all kind of stuff with a broken shoulder, and so now I'm not working and the drugs are rampant. So it's like, well, what are you gonna do? Well, I'm renting out my truck for dope and just everything. It's just selling everything I got. I mean, just I started selling drugs. I started cooking dope in my shed. And oh wait, let me back up. In 2011, we decided to have a second kid and work on our marriage, which it didn't get any better. But anyway, so we got 2 kids now and all these drugs and a little one. So anyway, CPS kept getting called probably 4 or 5 times. I don't know, lost count. But I would drink bleach and orange juice. We both would, and to clean our systems out, so we would be able to keep our kids, because we were women, right? No.
Oh.
Anyway, it just continued, man. It was just chaotic, So they came back again, and by this time, man, we were strung out. I'm talking, we're just, anything you can think of that deals with drugs, we were doing it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to glorify it, but anyway, it was bad. So anyway, we CPS is getting called back, and so I'm not even answering the door at this point, because my way of thinking, if you answer the door, that's your own fault. You're gonna fail. Anyway, so they kept coming back. They're relentless. They kept knocking. I wasn't answering. They knock on the door, and the kids, and they think, quiet, don't, and so they left the notes, and it was like, I don't know, like a Thursday, maybe. It's like, we're coming back Monday with the cops. I'm like, oh, wow, we pushed it too far.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said, it's time to quit now. Like, there's no time to wait. We have to quit now. So I quit in the dope house. I had the trap house. The trap house was my house. And all these people there doing dope and everything else. Anyway, seen people shooting up with their own blood. Because they didn't have water. I've shot up with Dr. Pepper because they didn't have water. It's just crazy, stupid.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I quit, and my wife can't quit. So I'm still having to get dope for her every day. I'm still having to go to the dope house and get dope, because I quit doing it. I quit selling, I quit. So they came back. They didn't have the cops, thank God, but they came back. And I opened the door, and talking and everything else. And my wife had just done some dope, like right before they got there. And they took the swabs and said, we're going to swab your mouth. And I said, man, I don't know. I don't trust that. It's just a sponge. I don't trust that. So they swabbed my mouth, they swabbed hers, and hers came back inconclusive, and mine came back as I failed.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, I know I didn't fail that. And I said, I want a urinalysis. I want a piss test right now. I'm like, we can't do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. You're CPS. Like, we can't do that. I said, okay, look. I said, I have a cup in the kitchen. I'm fixing to pee in it, and you're going to take it with you. I said, you're not understanding something. I'm clean. So they said, okay, look, tomorrow go down and take a piss test, both of you. So I did. We both did, and which I knew I was going to pass, and I passed, but she failed. And the CPS lady came to the house, and she said, you passed. And I said, I know I did. I tried to tell y'all this. She's like, but she failed. She's like, if you don't take the kids out of here, I'm taking the kids. So, I left right then and there. Yeah. Come on, let's go. So I came to Mom's house, and me and her at wit's end. We had been for the last 20 years. It was bad. The things, my wife did to her, said to her, made me do. My wife was still pain pills from her one time after having a surgery, and just horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I was here, and it was bad. I was clean, but it was still struggling to stay clean. So anyway, I couldn't stay here long. I didn't stay here very long at all, and I moved in with some friends of mine. My best friend. We've been friends for 43 years, me and her. So she lived a block away still. So I moved in with them, her and her husband. And they drink. So I started drinking. I was drinking a fifth a day, driving around, wherever. But I thought I was doing good because I was off the dope. And then I remember I took a drink, and God spoke to me again. And I was like, really? Right now? You want to talk to me right now? He's like, yeah. I don't know what all this means yet, but he said it. Anyway, he said, I want you to prepare for battle. He said, you need to prepare yourself. He said, life as we know it is never going to be the same. And this is in 2015. Okay. So I'm like, I'm all cocky, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ, I got this, which I didn't have it at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm drinking every day, and 8 months goes by, and I got a job, and my boss was just ripping people off, a used car salesman, just trying to claim to be a Christian. And anyway, so I was mad at him one day about some things, and I said, "Man, it ain't gonna work." And I quit. I can't be around this. And so I was halfway out the door. He's like, "Yeah, you can't even shoot yourself right. You can't do nothing right." So it made me mad. And I went back in there, and he's like an ex-boxer. He used to box. And anyway, so I cleared his desk off everything, and I said, come outside with me. We've been in a fight. And so he grabbed like a 3-foot closet rod that he had sawed off or whatever. And I said, well, bring that with you. You're going to need it. And I sat outside and waited on him. Anyway, so on better judgment, I said, I might ought to leave because the police station's like right down the road. So I left, and I went to my girlfriend's house, and she gave me a Xanax, and I ate that, and that's my downfall. I do stupid stuff when I do that. And after doing that and drinking, and, I had my kid with me over at her house in Louisiana, a different state. An old dope dealer called me and said, you want $300 worth of dope? And it's crazy because, she died a few months ago, but my dope dealer was my best friend that shot himself's girlfriend back in the day.
Wow.
The cheerleader. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, whatever. So she gave me the stuff for free, and a needle. And I went to my girlfriend's house in Louisiana and shot the whole gram, and I went outside because I was hot, and I was just texting somebody on the phone, another girl, because that's what dope does. And the cops walked up behind me, and I'm just standing outside texting somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I still have a little dope on me and like a crumb and got weed. So they're like, freeze. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh, man. Yeah. I couldn't even spell my name right. I was so high. And, so I went to jail, and I'm looking at 5 years in a different state, and I never had a felony. I'm looking at felonies, and like, man, so I did it, man. I pushed it too far. Mm. And I didn't know where my kid was, that was the worst part. I'd barely known this girl, and she ended up bringing to my father-in-law's house for some reason, not my house. I don't know about that, but anyway. They gave me the nickname C4 in there because I just blew up on everything and anybody, and just, I was mad at the world and mad at myself, and just, after 2 days of just, just anger, just vicious, this guy came in, and this jail's like an 1800 jail. It hadn't changed a bit. And there's only like 10 cells, so you can't see nobody else. But I could see the bars. And this guy, he put a Bible out of the bars. He's like, you want this? And I said, yeah, I do. And he slid it to me. And, man, I just got into it. And I stayed in there, man. Anytime I was angry or felt alone or shameful or anything other than joy, I was in there reading it instead of letting myself feel those feelings and just get worse and worse.
So that's why you were reading it for so many hours a day?
Yeah. Well, that's all I had, man. I was reading it like 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
but I had to, because if I wasn't reading it, I was thinking too much. I was, Satan was in my mind, because the idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah, right.
So I had to keep my mind busy, and yeah, actually, I was writing down a lot of stuff, man, just writing down and underlining and just tons of stuff, just going through it, and then I read a book in there. We didn't have any books, but there was a book in there. It had no covers on it, but it was a Joyce Meyer book. Mm-hmm. And it was called Do Yourself a Favor and Forgive. And I read that book, and it was only like 160 pages. I read it twice, and it was like, man, it was just...
Spoke.
I was opened up. I opened up, man. I was like, because I didn't think I had a problem with forgiveness. I'd been talking to my dad face to face. Drove 30 miles to do it in the car with him, sit across from his desk and talk to him face to face and tell him I forgive him, and ask him to forgive me for the things he had to see and go through after I shot myself. Because he had to go in there and pull my teeth and bones out of the wall with pliers and cut that sheetrock out of there and remodel the bathroom by himself before his family could be in there,
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, he was a jerk, but the things that I put him through, were real,
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't think I had a problem with forgiveness, but apparently that whole book is written to me.
Of course.
So, and man, forgiveness, man, I learned how to forgive in there, and man, that was... change started falling off of me, dude. When I learned how to truly forgive, the change just started falling and falling and falling. And it was like, I just kept digging in and digging in and digging in. And whenever, like I said, I was looking at 5 years. And they transferred me from the little bitty prison, little jail, podunk jail, to a prison. And I was over there, and these people had already gotten sentenced and everything. I'm like, man, they threw me to the wolves, yo. It's like, I'm supposed to be in county jail, and I'm in a prison in Lake Charles, and it's like, whoa. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, here we go. But I had my Bible, man. The guy gave me the Bible. Actually, he went to Lake Charles with me. Huh. And because, like, if you're a felon, if you got a felony, you don't just get out of county where I was. They take you to Lake Charles, and you got to go through all that and get out from there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't getting out. Anyway, so I'm over there, and they're talking about court could be over a year, especially if I'm out of state. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, and at this time, my wife, my separated wife, she had moved a dope dealer in her house, in our house, and everything. She went to prison. She was fixing to get out she had a month left when I went in. And so it was like there was no communication, and I had my truck at my girlfriend's. I couldn't, they were talking about towing it. And I'm like, so I got my best friend. She went and got my truck, and I was like, just put it wherever you want to put it. I don't care. Just get it, but she had a spare key in my truck, and so anyway, my truck was safe, and she was supposed to be getting out in a month, and I was stuck in there, and I was just praying and praying all the time, and I was laying there praying one day, and there's no AC in this jail. It's 98 degrees inside. So this is like sitting there sweating, and I start praying to God, and like, man, I just want to go home. I call him dude a lot. Sorry, but me and him have a personal relationship. So, and I'm like, dude, I just want to go home. And I heard him say, soon, my son. I'm like, soon. I said, I'm not even asking how long soon is. I can do soon. So I'm just, I'm not stressing to getting out. I'm praying. I'm focusing on him. And about a week later, they told me to pack my house, and I was going home. I'm like, what? Yes. So my wife had sold my truck and got me out. So I didn't want to get back with her, but I mean, I really didn't have much of a choice. So we tried to make it work. You know, I was still, you know, we were both trying to focus on God, and it was good. It was working, but I stayed the course, and she fell off. You know, and she started doing dope again. I didn't even know, and I. Well, let me back up. So we were doing good and everything, praying about the court thing. I went to court, and like I said, I'm looking at 5 years felony time. And I'm up there, and the DA is sitting there at the table, and the judge is talking, and she said the charges, and the judge said, he said, well, we're going to reduce it all down to misdemeanor weed possession first offense. And my mouth just dropped, because that's not close to being like 8 or 9 times I've been in jail, you know. I'm sorry. I'm getting over Corona too.
Yeah, no, we're the Corona brothers, man. The COVID brothers. Nah, go for it, man. You're all right.
So the DA even says that's not his first offense and these other charges. He's like, I don't care. He said, I'm sentencing him to 20 days in jail, and he spent 60 days in jail, so time served. Go home, sir. Boom. Free.
Praise
no,
God.
nothing. Free. And that's only God. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? How does that happen?
God.
How does that, exactly. So it's like, what? So God's always been there helping me. So anyway, I go home. Everything is good. And she gets back on the drugs, and I don't know about it. You know, she's hiding it from me. So a few months go by, and she's like, and she's on probation, and felony probation. Anyway, so her probation officer calls and says, we want to do a drug test, and she's freaking out. I'm like, what's the big deal? Go take a drug test. She's like, I'm dirty. I'm like, what? I said, oh, you messed up. And so I said, you got to go take the test. If you don't take the test, it's a fail anyway. So she went and told them, you know, even before the test, what she did. And she failed the test. They put her back in prison for 8 more months. And those 8 months, you know, I was just hitting the Bible, just, you know, digging deep. And, well, no, let me back up a little bit. She had to go to NA meetings because of her probation, and we were doing that. Like, was it 90 meetings in 90 days? And we were doing that, and I loved it. You know, I quit without all that, but I loved it because I could help people. You know, I could use what I've been learning and try to help people. And man, I loved it. And this lady said, you need to start a Facebook group. And I didn't even have a Facebook. You know, me and my wife had one before, and it was trouble. Okay, because we were on dope. And anyway, so I'm like, no, I'm not starting a group. I'm not getting on the Facebook thing. And so yeah, she kept on and pushing me, and she pushed me. You know, God put it on her heart to push me. So I said, okay, I'll see about starting one. So I went home and going through the motions of starting one, and I named it Suicide Prevention and God's Helpers, and it's still going. But I started it, and in one day, like the next day after, I was helping people and doing all this stuff, and meeting people that, you know, read my story that needed help and passing it along. And you know the band Korn?
Yeah.
Okay, the lead bass guitarist, Head Welch,
yes,
messaged me one day.
No way.
I'm serious.
That's awesome.
He said, man, I read your story. He said, I back you 100%.
Yeah.
And man, I got chills right now. But he's a big Christian now. He turned his life over to God.
Yeah, he's got an incredible story too. So he reaches out to you, right?
Yeah, he reaches out. I saved the screenshot for a long time, but through new phones and everything else. But anyway, he said, I've been sharing your story with some people and this, that, and other. Well, out of him sharing my story, this ex-Marine that was in Special Forces for over like 11 years messages me, and he's got a ministry and he wants me to be a part of it, and like this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, cool, and it was called No Clue Ministries because he didn't have a clue what he was doing. God just told him to do it. I'm like, hey, whatever,
appropriately.
That's it. So I'm like, I linked up with this guy, and he flew me a few places, and met me there, and I did some speaking, and people were getting help and saved, and I'm like, man, just look at this, and it's nothing that I did, it's all God, and it's like, it was just great. But matter of fact, he was going to give me a house on North Carolina Beach that free of charge to live in. It's the house he lived in when he was in boot camp and all that, and he lived like 3 hours away in a different state. He said, but it's just vacant. Wow. And but anyway, a hurricane came through and tore the house down. Didn't end up going, but I was gonna go anyway. But things were good, and I was helping everybody, and she was in there, and I met a lady through Facebook that had another ministry, wanted me to be a part of it, and I was like, yeah, sure, because why say no? Right, God's opening doors for you. Yeah. So, but the guy got mad. He's like, man, don't trust her. Don't work with her. I'm like, like, I don't know about that. So anyway, me and him kind of faded off because why wouldn't you want to, just help anybody? Right? It's not a competition. Yeah, so I'm like, anyway, so I kind of flirted off of that one, and I stayed with the lady. I felt it was right, I felt it was a move of God, and I'm still in that ministry today. But and it's in Alabama, and I go there. I've been there several times, but she pushed me. And she. I thank God for my pushers. Yeah. But she said, she said, you want to get your minister's license? And I'm like, whoa, slow down. Wow. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a lot. I don't know. I said, maybe, one day I do, but like just, I felt overwhelmed at the time, I guess, by that. Yeah. But she was pushing me, and I know to have faith in God. And if I don't want to do something, I need to do it. But so I was like, yeah, okay. She said, my ministry will pay for it. You just do it. Wow. And so I was like, okay. So it was expensive too. It was a lot. But anyway, I put myself through school, which I was able to do at home. They sent me all the packets and papers, and good Lord. Anyway, so I was in it. I was doing it, and it was over a year just studying and just doing it myself, and just trying to apply myself. So anyway, I got that, took all my finals for that, made a 98 and a 96. So it gave me overachiever. Yeah. Well, hey, I got to get this stuff right. Yeah, man. You're not kidding. So anyway, I had my minister's license, man. And I was like, I was a minister. And I was like, what? Even though I don't preach at a church, right. People who are in the church are halfway there. I need the people in the trenches. Yeah. So I call it trench ministry is what I do. Is the name I developed for it. That's awesome. But so I just started doing it, man, and just kept on and got the groups, and I admin over 30 different self-help groups, suicide, all that kind of stuff. And and my personal groups, I have a few of them, but I just mainly focus on one. Yeah. A few people have given me their groups. Here, you want it? I'm like, well, you don't need to shut it, but anyway. But, so yeah, when she got out of prison, I was still going through the school and stuff. But I told her, I said, look, I said, I'm immensely serious in this. I said, I'm wrapped up in this stuff. I said, we've got to get right. You've got to get right. Okay. I know you're on the right track because you've been in prison for 8 months and you've been doing the God thing. I said, but here's something. I don't know, just if you don't follow me, I'm going to leave you behind. I made that choice.
Yeah.
I said, if you do not follow suit and you go the opposite way, I will walk away. And it was good for a while, but then same old, started falling back. Mm-hmm. And it got pretty bad, and she started drinking a little bit, and every time she would drink, she would just, I mean, like, it could be 3 little airplane balls, and she's fighting mad. You know, and kick me in the face on the bed, or if I'm driving down the road, just honk and kick me in the face while I'm driving, just whatever the case may be. And it was horribly toxic. So it got to the point where I said, I'm gone. I'm done. I've got to be done. And I left and took the kids out of there, and which my oldest, you know, he went and stayed with my friend because we couldn't get along either. He was like 17, I think, or 18, something like that. But anyway, he saw too much toxic stuff growing up. And that's another reason I left, to get my young one out of there before he saw as much as my other one did. And, you know, and we got divorced. And, you know, that's where we're at. I mean, we're still friends. I saw her today, but she hadn't figured it out yet.
Well, it sounds like over the years, God's removed the things that were the boundaries, or the barriers rather, from getting you from where you were at to where he needed you to go. And he knew you were willing, but there was a lot of this, what I call noise around you, trying to pull you down, hold you back. And you know as well as better than anyone that whatever he wills will be done, and whatever he doesn't won't be. So looks like he wins again. So he was protecting you, whether you were inside of jail or outside of jail.
Right.
From sometimes yourself and sometimes from others, it sounds like.
Myself mostly.
Yeah. You know, just like you said about looking back, sometimes while we're going through it, we don't really see what's happening. We just see the chaos. But see, the chaos is before the peace. And I think right now, where I'm understanding, I know you haven't gotten there yet, but you're in a season of peace and prosperity. And I don't mean money. That's not true prosperity anyway. I'm talking about prosperity in the kingdom. And what a total transformation. So I can just see the devil all in his hands all in through your life, but I always see God pulling you back, holding you back, pulling you forward, and you being obedient, the good and faithful servant that he's telling you to be, that he asks all of us to be. And man, that's exciting. So what happened next?
Just kept pushing. I moved back in with my mom again, but this time it was way different. And I live there now. I live in the house I shot myself in. It don't bother me. It don't bother me a bit. It don't,
he took away your past.
Yeah, but the cool thing is, I've been here over a couple of years, and we hadn't, ever fight.
Yeah.
Never. And back in the day, we couldn't talk for 5 minutes without fighting. And it's like, God has restored my relationship with my mother and my family. And, like my aunts and uncles on her side of the family, and it was, because I was the black sheep. I'm the only one that's ever been to jail, my family, all that. So it's like, as far as I went, they're like, when they heard I was smoking weed back in the day, I was the devil. It's like, y'all don't even understand. But today, man, I'm doing the same thing. I'm still going to church all the time. I can't get enough of him, And I'm at a season right now where it's like I can't get enough. Like I gotta Oh, I can back up, but I do Bible studies on the phone and in my car, and man, if I'm not doing 20 a day, I feel lost. You know
Wow.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I deliver pizza in my car, so all day I'm in my car, so I can do that. You know, and I'm talking to people all day at work. I'll take, if I have a serious call or something, you know, if somebody's needing help, I'll tell them at work, hey, clock me out an hour. I'm going to sit in the car for a minute.
Yeah.
If y'all need something, come get me. They're like, okay, go ahead.
That's awesome.
They know what I do. They know my passion about it and behind it. And it's like,
Man.
and I still travel around wherever I can, speaking and showing God's love to anybody I meet. And it's just, I don't know, man. I gotta have God. I gotta keep pushing. I gotta have it.
It's reminiscent
There's
of
too
Paul.
much out there. Yeah. And it's crazy because, you know how, I mean, I grew up and I would hear people talk about, oh, don't watch TV and don't do this and don't do that. And I'm like, that's just TV.
Right.
Oh no, they're serious. You know, if you're not where you need to be, you know, there's all kind of things that can get to you all kind of different ways.
Yep. I always say, if you're not in the Word, you're in the world.
That's it. Like watching the news, man, you can just get mad in a second by watching the news. But you know, anger or getting offended is the bait of Satan. You know, if we get offended by everything, this, that, and the other, it's like, what are we here for? Y'all are missing the point. And it's like, if my ex makes me mad, Satan won.
Yeah.
Because I can get mad as long as I don't lash out or sin. But like with anybody, you know, because it's not a battle between flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. If somebody makes me mad and I say something to them, then I lost right there. I lost.
Yeah.
Because Satan's getting me messed up, and then I'm gonna go fester about it and keep, and make it worse and worse. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I always like to touch on three important things when I do talk and give my testimony, and one of them is forgiveness. You've got to have forgiveness. For one thing, if you can't forgive, you can't be forgiven by God.
Yep.
For two, forgiveness isn't for the other person ever. Most of those people that you're mad at don't care or don't even know.
Yep.
It's for you. It's for those chains to fall off of you.
Right.
You know, and the second thing is isolation. Everybody wants to get hurt and isolate themselves. And that's the absolute worst thing you can do. Okay, because like I said, out of mind is the devil's playground. But if you get in trouble out in the world and you go to jail because you're being punished, it's pretty bad. But if you're in jail and you get in trouble, you get punished. What do they do with you? They throw you in isolation, solitary confinement. The worst possible place they can put a criminal to do the worst, emotional damage they can do. Mm-hmm. So why are we willingly putting our own self in the worst possible place?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely
on,
put
man.
ourselves.
I call it self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why the reaching out is so important, because you're not alone in what you're going through. I guarantee it. You're not the only one that's ever done it. You didn't create a sin, but it's to reach out, because there's other people going through the same thing, and releasing and speaking and getting it out there takes the power away from Satan, because the power of the sin is in the secret.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely spot on. Well,
and the third thing, the last thing I'll say is, when everybody says give it to God, nobody tells you how to do it. They say give it to God, have a nice day, whatever. So I want to tell you how to give it to God. The way you give something to God, it's like what I did in jail. When you start feeling anger, you don't sit there and be angry. You walk over there and you get your Bible and you start reading it. Or when you start feeling lonely, you don't sit there in your own self-pity. You go get your Bible and you start reading it. And you read it, and you read it, and you read it until you don't feel like that. And it don't take long. But if you can get yourself in a pattern of doing that, it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a lifestyle, and then, man, you got it.
Amen.
I'm not saying that you won't have bad things come against you, but when they do come against you, you'll be like Paul and them and the disciples in the Bible that were fixing to get their heads chopped off, but happy about it.
That's right.
They had peace in the struggle.
Yep. And that's what he means by "is greater is in him than in you that is him than he that is in the world." So
exactly,
right out of Scripture. That is a really solid nugget to live by. What do you think? Like the listeners, right? If they have, which I'm sure they do, it could be them, it could be a loved one, an acquaintance, a coworker, friend, and maybe not even now. Maybe it's a couple months from now that they're feeling low. They're at a stage where they feel maybe they lack purpose, or perhaps they are too low to rise out of the ashes. What's the number one thing you think they could do to help?
Read the Bible. It's put there for a reason, okay? And the Bible, I don't know if this is really what it means, but basic instructions before leaving Earth, and man, God wants. That's the way He speaks to us. That's the way we defeat evil, is with the words. I mean, because like when Jesus was tempted, how did he beat Satan? He read Scripture.
Yep.
So if we're always in the Bible and we're learning and have it on our heart, then we can defeat Satan with it. And when we feel like that, we can rebuke those feelings right in our own bedroom and feel better immediately. We have the power and the control to defeat him.
That's right. And that's how powerful the Scriptures are, that they're so powerful even the devil has them memorized and tries to use them against the one that wrote it. That's how powerful it is. But if somebody is in that situation, they're probably initially not going to go get the Bible. But if they can find a way to get it and read it, that will work. But they can also contact me. They can find my group on Facebook. It's called Suicide Prevention and God's Helpers. They can Google my name. It'll pop up. I mean, my phone number is all over my Facebook. It's all over my group. I mean, it's not hidden. Just reach out to somebody, anybody. Yeah. And please, if we can include these in today's show notes for our listeners, I'd love to just get some ways that the listeners can reach out to you, find out more about you, how they can support your ministries, and perhaps even connect with you one-on-one, or pass you to a loved one that they feel would resonate well with you. So if you can send me that, I'll include them.
Absolutely.
And that's the least we can do, and just to help out your mission and God's mission with you. Let me ask you one more question, if I may, before we wrap up. Korey, if you could go back and whisper something into young Korey's ear, the one just prior to the attempt to end your life, what would that be?
I would just talk about God, man. Just get close as you can to God, because He wants you to, for one reason. That's what He created you for, to have a relationship with Him. And just stress the fact about the Bible. I can't stress it enough. God loves us that much that He gives it. It's that simple. It sounds too easy, but He loves us that much to make it that easy. That's the only. Yep. The only truth that remains is God. So, everything else will pay off. So.
That's right. Well, man, you are absolutely invited back anytime, brother.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, please do. Please stay in touch and let us know how we can support your ministries and connect even further. And I'm going to talk to you again real soon, Korey. God bless you, brother, and stay blessed and stay blessing others. We need you.
Well, thank you. And God bless you as well.
Yeah, very well. So, before we end today's show, I just wanted to thank again, Korey Burris, and you all again for tuning in. And I know you were touched by Korey's story and the power, the glory of God, and what He can do through one person to affect many. And, as always, if you'd like to reach out to me, please call me directly at 407-493-3208. You can email me at ben@shaken-awake.com, or you can check out the show at shaken-awake.com. I will have Korey's contact information and some information on his ministries and Facebook groups for you to connect. So next week, tune in next Sunday or whenever you're able as we take a dive into another very important topic. But I'm going to give it a twist, and I'm going to let you know next weekend how many weekends you have left remaining on this earth. Yes, I will do that. So next week's episode is another powerful and do not miss episode. Thank you all for joining. Until next time, take great care of yourself and each other, and God bless you all.